Coming up, still waiting for federal help more than 2 months after the flood.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 11.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley. As Florida begins its long recovery from Hurricane Ian, now the second deadliest storm to hit the mainland U.S. this century, people here in eastern Kentucky know it will take time. In late July, heavy rain resulted in our worst flooding in decades, causing hundreds of millions of dollars in damage and at least 41 deaths. More than 2 months later, many are still waiting for help. Tonight, our disaster received national attention again on the CBS Evening News. CBS's Manuel Bajorquez takes a look at just how devastating the wait can be for federal aid.
Got it?
Yeah.
The signs of lives upended are everywhere here. Third-generation coal miner Roger Hatton is still sifting through debris and memories.
What do you want people to know about what's happening here?
We have got a porch to sit on. Some people don't got a porch to sit on. They don't have, some people are living in tents.
This is one of the most enduring images of the Kentucky floods. 17-year-old Chloe Adams clinging to her dog Sandy on a neighbor's rooftop for 5 hours.
I didn't know how to deal with that situation. I didn't know what was going to happen, and I really did think I was not going to make it out alive.
Her cousin rescued them on a kayak, but to this day, Chloe has not returned to her hometown, Whitesburg.
I don't think I would ever be able to comfortably sleep there again.
This nonprofit kitchen is providing the displaced an average of 1,200 meals a day. 5 of the school district's 8 campuses were damaged, delaying the start of the school year. The state has been rolling out some temporary homes.
I believe that people should pull themselves up by their bootstraps, but our bootstraps have washed down the creek.
State Representative Angie Hatton, who lives in Whitesburg, says the problem for many now is navigating the process of securing aid from FEMA.
It takes some sort of Olympic athlete to jump through the hoops. So I keep calling on our representatives in Congress and the U.S. Senate to please do something about FEMA.
Overall, FEMA has doled out more than $70 million here.
Wow, down to the studs.
But victims like single mother of 2, Vanessa Rouse, are still stuck in limbo.
This was the kitchen.
She says her flood insurance and homeowners insurance are at odds over who should cover this. So for now, Rouse is paying a mortgage on a house she can't live in.
I used to come almost every day, but I don't come that often anymore.
Why is that?
Because it's so sad, because every day it's more and more apparent of the loss.
The loss and the long road ahead. Manuel Bajorquez, CBS News, Whitesburg, Kentucky.
We learned today that a body found recently in Breathitt County was positively identified as Nancy Cundiff, one of 2 women reported missing since the flood. Vanessa Baker is still missing. After the flood, many first responders risked their lives to help their communities, even if that meant leaving behind their own damaged or destroyed homes. WYMT's Keaton Hall has more on how a local VFW post showed their appreciation today.
After the floods, the VFW in Whitesburg served as a donation center, and recently they raised money for flood victims.
We're just going to try to help them out. Maybe you can buy a wash machine or just help with the payment. I don't know, but that's what we're doing. And these guys are, they're like my brothers and sisters.
Jay Perkins is a KSB trooper in Harlan County, and all of the money raised went to his fellow first responders.
Several of our guys lost everything that they had, and me, like our citizens throughout the communities, lost everything they had. And we're just trying to pick up the pieces and move forward and do the best we can.
With several of the troopers from Post 13 and Hazard being the hardest hit.
One of our troopers out of the Hazard post, he lost everything. I was actually banging on his door, trying to get him out of bed, but he wasn't there. He was gone. So. But he wasn't even there, and he come home to nothing. His whole house was destroyed.
Even still, these troopers were often the first to lend a helping hand.
You're talking about guys that initially, when the first flood just struck, they put their own needs aside. Many of them lost everything that they had, put their needs aside to go out and help the citizens that they serve every day.
Supporting those who keep the mountains strong.
I've moved up here in 2009, but I've never seen people more stronger than here in the mountains of eastern Kentucky.
In Whitesburg, Keaton Hall, WYMT Mountain News.
Around $18,000 was given to troopers and dispatchers from around the area. Governor Beshear gave an update today on debris removal in eastern Kentucky. Crews have now collected more than 130,000 tons of debris from the roads. They've been clearing it for 65 days now. On the waterways, more than 158,000 tons has been removed. Crews have been working on the waterways for a little over a month now. Debris removal will continue until it's all cleared.
Well, skies remain clear as we run through the overnight hours, or at least partly cloudy, as we watch a frontal boundary pushing closer and closer to the mountains at this hour. Good news, no rain to speak of, though honestly we could use a little bit of rain as we've been dry for the last little while. A look outside right now shows nothing of the sort. Low 50s in Hazard, mid 50s in London. And to complete the set, upper 50s in Pikeville. All quiet around the region right now. Notice those south-southeast winds keeping it a little milder at this hour compared to where we were yesterday. Low 50s in some of our sheltered locations. Manchester and Harlan 51, 52. Jonesville, Middlesboro, Jacksboro, but it's still 60 in Jackson and 58 in Prestonsburg, where they've seen a few more clouds. Last 6 hours, you see some of those high clouds working in. It's what's keeping it a little bit milder tonight. We're going to watch partly cloudy skies, maybe a stray shower as we run it through tonight, but I think many of us stay dry. And we're on our way to a much cooler day into the next couple of days. That detail's coming up in a few minutes. Steve?
All right, Evan, thank you. Knott County officials are warning folks about scams relating to flood relief. Since the flood, thousands have flocked to the area with good intentions, but officials say to be cautious of people asking for money up front. Knott County Attorney Tim Bates says the office is looking for people committing fraud.
Our office has received complaints on some out-of-county contractors that are trying to take advantage of the situation in regard to the flood damage repair.
Bates says anyone who thinks they might have been scammed should report it to police. The ARH Flood Relief Distribution Center is closing its doors to the public at the old J.C. Penney building in Hazard. That's where it's located. ARH leadership says they are shifting the center into its next phase, becoming a warehouse of sorts for furniture and other needs, along with working with charities and government organizations.
As we started out, we knew that there was going to be a great need, but had no idea the extent of everything it's going to be and the number of people that were impacted. I mean, it's just recently we started getting the real numbers of how many people have truly been impacted. There's like 17,000 FEMA applications so far in the region.
The center is still open tomorrow from 10 a.m. till 4 p.m. Earlier this week, a fire destroyed a campus home at Mount Carmel School in Jackson. The fire is believed to have been caused by the electrical box. The family that lived in the house was the campus maintenance man and his family. The headmaster at the school says the family lost everything, but they had another home for them to move into.
We have had an open home that they can go in for the temporary, and we brought some furniture and stuff in there and got them set up, and our local church here gave them some funds immediately for them to go out that day and get some change of clothes and buy some clothes and stuff.
He says alumni from the school have already been coming up with plans to rebuild the home in the same location. 2 people in Laurel County are accused of cutting holes in 2 church vans' gas tanks. Both Ashley Cope and Natasha Scott were charged with criminal mischief, criminal trespassing, possession of a controlled substance, and possession of drug paraphernalia. Both were taken to the Laurel County Correctional Center. 3 Jewish mothers in Louisville are taking Kentucky's abortion ban to court. The lawsuit claims abortion laws oppose Jewish teachings on pregnancy. Unlike Kentucky's law, Jewish law does not believe human life begins at conception. The suit on behalf of Lisa Sobel, Jessica Kalb, and Sarah Barron was filed against Attorney General Daniel Cameron and Attorney Thomas Wine. Their complaint says Kentucky law contradicts their religious rights when it comes to their use of reproductive medicine, in vitro fertilization, or IVF.
Now my greatest fear is that I become pregnant and I go to a scan and they say, your baby's incompatible with life and we can't help you. Because that's the reality right now in our state.
Kentucky Supreme Court will hear arguments on November 15th in Frankfort. That's 1 week after voters will weigh in on the constitutional amendment regarding abortion in the state. It appears U.S. Senator Rand Paul has no plans to debate his challenger Charles Booker ahead of Election Day. Here's what the senator said about a debate today.
You know, our concern is that the Booker campaign is advocating both mocking and celebrating violence, and I don't think it's a good idea to sort of encourage that. So we're probably not going to interact with him in person because of his advocacy for violence.
Now, Booker has repeatedly pushed for debates and denies that his campaign condones violence, as Paul's ads have suggested. Senator Paul did take part in debates in 2010 and 2016. This will mark the first time since the 1990s that there will not be a U.S. Senate debate in Kentucky. President Joe Biden says the risk of nuclear Armageddon is at the highest level since the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis. This comes as Russian officials speak of the possibility of using tactical nuclear weapons after suffering massive setbacks in the 8-month invasion of Ukraine. The president made those comments at a fundraiser for the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee. Coming up on Mountain News at 11, the Artist Collaborative Theater is hosting a spooky Halloween production. We'll give you a sneak peek next.
Plus, we're keeping it cool as we head through the next few days. The latest on when we could see some frost on the way. That's next.